When I first met Vanessa, she was already running the show. She was 7 years older than me and definitely the one who made the first move. Before we ever officially started dating, she was pretty upfront about her history. When she talked about guys she dated in high school, or the more recent relationships she'd been in, she spoke about them like she was reading a grocery list. Totally calm, like it didn't matter anymore. But whenever she brought up Toby, her best friend from college, the vibe changed completely. She would get quiet and just stare off for a bit. She had been crazy about him back in the day, but when she finally told him how she felt, he shot her down. It was a messy situation. After they graduated, Toby moved overseas, and she stayed here. She told me it took her 5 solid years to actually get over him. She explained it by saying they weren't really compatible anyway, and that the years she spent obsessing over him were more about her ego than actual love. She said she just couldn't handle that such a tight friendship had ended with 0 contact. I liked that she was honest with me, and since she was trying so hard to be with me, I agreed to give it a shot. Fast forward to now, and we both live and work in New York City. The main difference is that she owns her condo, and I'm still throwing money away on rent. The city is huge, and our jobs are in different boroughs, so during the work week, we usually crash at our own apartments. We're always on video calls, though. Then, on Friday nights, either she comes to my place or I go to hers, and we spend the whole weekend hanging out. Despite the age difference, we always just clicked. This particular Friday, it was her turn to come over to my place. She sent me a text in the afternoon, letting me know she was going to grab drinks with some old college buddies and would be a little late. I've met her college crew before. Usually Vanessa asks if I want to come along, but this time she didn't say anything about me joining. Midnight rolled around, and she still wasn't there. I was staring at the clock, thinking about a picture her friend Jessica had posted on social media earlier that evening. It was a group photo of everyone grinning at the camera. Vanessa wasn't smiling, though. Her face was blank, but her eyes were locked on the guy standing right next to her. The caption said something like, "So happy to have Toby back in the city. He and I have the exact same eyes." My gut instantly told me that this was him, the guy she never really got over. And Vanessa hadn't said a single word to me about him being there that night. It wasn't until 2:00 a.m. that I heard her key in the door. In the quiet of the apartment, every noise sounded loud. I heard the sliding door to the balcony open up. About 30 minutes later, she finally got in the shower. 10 minutes after that, she crept into the bedroom. She leaned down and kissed me on the forehead, and her breath smelled like a mix of strong mints and cigarettes. She had started smoking again. When she was first trying to date me, I told her plainly that I didn't like dating smokers. So Vanessa quit. Just like that, cold turkey. I remember the first time she introduced me to her friends. One of them laughed and said, "Vanessa has been a pack-a-day smoker for 10 years. You're the first person who actually got her to stop." I had looked at Vanessa and asked, "Really? Then who was the first person who made you start?" Vanessa didn't answer me then. She just pulled me in for a hug. Her friend laughed it off and said, "Look at you, Vanessa, robbing the cradle. No wonder you kept him hidden for so long." Vanessa just smiled and whispered something nice in my ear. That night, she was the only one who got wasted. By the time we were leaving, she was leaning all her weight on me, mumbling, "Mark, I'm so happy." I was the guy who got her to quit smoking, but apparently someone else had just made her start again. Vanessa lay down on the other side of the bed with her back to me. She didn't spoon me or pull me close like she normally did. Even though we were lying on the same mattress, it felt like we were miles apart. Neither of us slept at all. When I woke up the next morning, her side of the bed was empty. I heard some clattering in the kitchen and walked out to find Vanessa wearing the matching pajamas we had bought as a joke. She had an apron on and was holding a spatula, looking very domestic and soft. I watched her for a minute without saying anything until she turned around to grab a bowl and spotted me. "Why didn't you say anything? Go wash your face. Breakfast is almost ready." I didn't move. She turned the burner off and walked over to grab my hand. "What's wrong? Still half asleep?" she asked. She was acting as attentive and nice as she always did. The smell of smoke was gone, probably scrubbed away in the shower. I shook my head. "It's nothing. Thanks for making breakfast. I'll go get ready." She didn't let go of my hand. She leaned in for a kiss. "My payment for the cooking," she joked. I went to the bathroom, splashed cold water on my face, and stared at myself in the mirror, telling myself to stop freaking out. Even if her one that got away was back in town, I was the one she was actually with. I had to trust her. I had to trust us. But when we sat down at the table, the sautéed greens were incredibly salty, like inedible. I frowned as soon as I took a bite. "What is it?" she asked. I pushed the greens to the side of my plate. "Way too much salt." Vanessa took a bite, immediately spit it out into a napkin, and grabbed the plate. "Sorry, I must have been distracted. I'll make something else." She is usually a great cook. This was a dish she made all the time with her eyes closed. Despite how calm she looked on the outside, Toby coming back had clearly rattled her. The calm vibe I had tried to force on myself in the bathroom started to crack. I tried to sound casual, but it came out sounding like an interrogation. "So, was it just Jessica and the usual crew last night?" Vanessa answered automatically. Yes, but she realized her mistake the second the word left her mouth. She knew I followed Jessica online. A look of panic flashed across her face. Seeing that split second of guilt made my stomach drop. Vanessa sat back down and stopped lying. "There was one more person. Toby is back. The guy from college I told you about." "The one that got away." I finished the sentence for her. She flinched a little. "It's not what you think. I just looked at her." The silence grew heavy between us until her phone started ringing. The caller ID said Jessica. Vanessa looked at the screen but didn't pick up. She pressed the button to silence it. I knew exactly what she was thinking. We had argued before, but we were both the type to talk things out. We never let things sit overnight. The phone rang. Again. She declined it without looking. Then it rang a third time. "Just answer it," I said. "Maybe Jessica has an emergency." She picked up. Within seconds, all the color drained from her face. "Which hospital?" she asked, her voice tight. She was already walking toward the bedroom while she was still on the phone. Less than a minute later, she was dressed and grabbing her car keys. As she rushed past the dining room, she seemed to realize I was still sitting there. "Toby collapsed. He's in the ER. I have to go see him. We'll talk when I get back, okay?" Before I could even say a word, she was out the door. The salty greens on the table were cold now. I stood up and scraped the food into the trash. Vanessa didn't come back to my place that night. The next day was Sunday. There were no texts from her. Just to do something, I decided to deep clean the apartment. That was when I realized just how much of her stuff was in my space. In the bathroom, her skincare bottles were lined up right next to my face wash. In the closet, her dresses were hanging next to my work suits. On the coffee table, there was a half-finished Lego set she had been working on the last time she was here. We didn't officially live together, but our lives were completely mixed up. When we first started dating, Vanessa had asked me a few times to move into her place. I had said no. "That's your house," I told her. "If we ever get into a massive fight, I'd be the one crying on the sidewalk." She had laughed at me then. "If anyone is crying on the sidewalk, it'll be me. I'd never kick you out." I stuck to my guns. Couples need their own space. She had just patted my shoulder and said, "You're something else, Mark." Now, looking around, I was glad I made that decision. I had my own home to be in, even if it was just a rental. Around 8 p.m., Vanessa finally came back. I was sitting on the floor, finishing her Lego set. I looked up at her. She looked exhausted, her face thin and pale. I turned my attention back to the plastic bricks. Neither of us spoke first. She went into the bathroom to shower, but when she came out, she wasn't wearing her pajamas. I realized then she wasn't planning on staying the night. She sat down across from me at the coffee table and silently began handing me Lego pieces. 1, 2, 3. "Toby has cancer," she said. My hand froze. I sat there in silence as she told me the whole story. Apparently, Toby had moved overseas years ago to get treatment. He had rejected her back then because he didn't know how long he had to live. He didn't want to drag her into it, so he lied and pushed her away. Now he was back because his treatment had shown some progress, and he could finish the rest of it here in the States. Most importantly, he didn't want to die with any regrets. When he collapsed last night, he couldn't hide the truth anymore. Vanessa didn't say what Toby's specific regret was, but I could guess. As she spoke, she never looked me in the eye. Her voice was full of pity for another man, and the sadness of a lost love that turned out to be just a big misunderstanding. Honestly, I felt lost. I could feel her drifting away from me right there in the living room. She had clearly spent the last 48 hours at the hospital with him. She had only come here tonight because she had a plan. "So, what's the plan?" I asked. Vanessa was quiet for a long time. Finally, she looked up. "Can you promise me you won't overthink this or get angry? Just tell me." "The hospitals here in the city are the best. Toby doesn't have a permanent place to stay yet. I want him to stay at my place for a while." "How long is a while?" She seemed to be calculating it in her head. "The doctor wants to monitor him for at least a month. He needs to stay in the city." "And if he needs more monitoring after that month?" She didn't answer. "Where are you going to stay?" I asked. "He's sick, Mark. He needs someone to look after him." "So you're going to live with him? Do you even remember that you have a boyfriend?" The anger finally boiled over, and my voice got sharp. Vanessa frowned, looking at me like I was being a difficult child. "Mark, he's a patient. Don't be weird about this, okay?" I laughed, but it wasn't a happy laugh. "I'm being weird? Does he not have parents, family? You guys have a whole squad of friends here. At the very least, he could hire a nurse and stay in a hotel. Why does it have to be your house? Why do you have to be the one taking care of him?" Vanessa stared at the Legos, totally speechless. It was another long, suffocating silence. I knew this silence. Whenever she couldn't prove me wrong but didn't want to agree with me, she just stopped talking. To her, it wasn't about right or wrong. It was just a stalemate until I gave in. I expected to explode, but instead I felt a strange, numb calm, like the quiet after a fire has burned itself out. "So you've already decided," I said calmly. "You didn't come here to talk it over with me. You came here to notify me. You aren't looking for my input as your boyfriend." Vanessa looked tired. "I thought you'd understand, like you always do." I used to understand. I understood when she told me about her past. Everyone has a past. Besides, she had dated people between Toby and me. I thought she had truly moved on from that college heartbreak. But now the past and the present were a giant, tangled mess. How was I supposed to understand that? Finally, Vanessa stood up. "It's just for a month. I know where my heart is. It's you I love." But did she really? The next day was Monday, I expected to be distracted at work, but ironically, I barely thought about her. For me, that was weird. I'm the kind of guy who loves to share everything in a relationship. Usually, our text thread has hundreds of messages a day. Everything from deep talks about our families to pictures of what we had for lunch. Suddenly, the desire to share anything with her was just gone. I didn't even check my phone all day. When I finally did, her chat was pinned at the top with 3 unread messages. The first was from the morning. "Good morning." The second was from noon. "Make sure you eat lunch." The third was from 30 minutes ago. "Are you working late tonight?" I locked my phone without typing a reply. For the rest of the week, she texted every day like clockwork, asking what I was up to. I read them all and replied to none of them. By Friday afternoon, her car was parked outside my office building. I tried to ignore it, but she saw me coming out and waved. A coworker nudged me. "Hey, you're going the wrong way. Your girl is waiting for you over there." I had to say goodbye to my coworker and walk over to her car. "What are you doing here?" She gave me a gentle smile, acting as if I hadn't been ghosting her for 5 days. "Tomorrow is Valentine's Day. I wanted to take you to dinner tonight. I found this new spot I think you'll love." I had been so buried in work, I had completely forgotten about Valentine's Day. After a 5-day grind, the last thing I wanted to do was deal with Friday night traffic and wait in line for a table. "I'm tired. Let's just do it tomorrow. Isn't that when people actually celebrate?" Vanessa hesitated. "Okay, I'll just drop you home then." I could tell she wanted to say something else, but I wasn't in the mood. I closed my eyes and leaned back against the headrest. We didn't say a word the whole drive. It wasn't until we were standing in front of my apartment door that she finally spoke up. "Toby wants to go to Universal Studios tomorrow. He already bought the tickets. Can we push our dinner to Sunday instead?" My hand froze on the keypad. I turned to look at her. The hallway light flickered and died. Was she serious? Was she actually trying to put both of us on a schedule? "Don't worry about it," I said, punching in my code. Vanessa tried to follow me. Inside, her voice getting all apologetic and sweet. "I'll cook for you tonight then." I held the door half closed, blocking her way. I said, "Don't worry about it." She put her hand on the door, meeting my eyes. Her tone dropped. "What are you doing, Mark? Why are you being like this?" I was exhausted. I had planned on having a real talk with her over dinner tomorrow, but now I didn't even want to speak. "I'm not being anything. We both need some space to think about whether this relationship is even worth continuing." Vanessa's eyes got red, and then she flared up in frustration. "Are you serious? We can eat dinner anytime. Do you really have to pick a fight over a sick man?" I used to think we were perfectly in sync, but now I realized the honeymoon phase had just been a very long mask. She didn't know me at all. Every time it involves him, you make the decision first and then tell me later. What am I supposed to say to that? His needs are your top priority, and I'm just someone you squeeze into your schedule to check a box. And when I'm not okay with it, you pull the moral high ground card and act like I'm a monster for not catering to a patient. I'm not competing with him, Vanessa. I'm reacting to your attitude and your choices. I pointed toward the elevator. Just go. I have nothing left to say to you. She took a jagged breath and eventually turned around. We didn't speak for 2 weeks. She stopped texting, and I unpinned her on WhatsApp. I didn't expect Jessica to show up at my door. Got a minute? We need to talk. We sat down at a coffee shop, and Jessica got straight to the point. Are things bad between you and Vanessa? She told you that? My first reaction was annoyance. I don't like airing my relationship drama. She didn't have to, Jessica explained. We can all see it. We had to pry it out of her. She took a sip of her coffee and gave me a serious look. Look, it's not what you think. Those of us who were there in college, we know the whole story. I let her talk. She and Toby started out as rivals. They couldn't stand each other. But then they were paired up for a competition, and they had the same friends. Eventually, they became inseparable. They were like a classic will they, won't they couple. When they suddenly stopped talking, we were all confused. It turned out Toby had rejected her. It was brutal. It broke them both. Vanessa started smoking back then. I let out a small, bitter laugh. I should have known. When she introduced you to us and told us she quit for you, we really thought you were the one. Toby is sick, Mark. They both have a lot of baggage and regrets, but it's just that regret. She's helping him as a friend. There's nothing going on between them. The coffee was getting cold. If they have a whole group of friends, why does it have to be Vanessa? Jessica adopted a condescending, older sister tone. Toby is having major surgery in a week. It's a 50-50 shot. You should be the bigger person here, Mark. In their eyes, because Toby was sick, I was supposed to be the noble boyfriend who let his woman play nurse to her first love. Does he even know she has a boyfriend? I asked. Jessica looked away. Knowing him, if he knew, he wouldn't let her help. So you're all lying to him? He's about to go under the knife, I said, shaking my head. Jessica said it as if it were obvious. Why stir up drama and stress him out? That night of the reunion, they didn't know he was sick yet. Everyone in that photo knew Vanessa was dating you, and not one person said a word. They were planning on hiding it from the start. If it's so innocent, why would it stress him out? Deep down, you and Vanessa both know this is crossing a line. Jessica looked insulted. Vanessa was right. You're way too intense. Of all Vanessa's friends, I liked Jessica the most, but now she felt like a total stranger. I stood up. The conversation was over. I walked out of the coffee shop, pulled out my phone, and scrolled down to Vanessa's name. Come by my place sometime and get your stuff. She didn't reply for a long time. I wandered aimlessly through the city. I passed a boutique window with a beautiful dress in it, which reminded me of the time Vanessa said she wanted to marry me. It was our second anniversary. We were both a little tipsy, and she had asked, half joking, if I proposed to you one day, would you say yes? I'd looked into her eyes and said, I'll tell you when the day comes. She'd kissed me and said, just don't run away when I do. At the time, I wouldn't have minded marrying her. Now the memory just felt heavy. I realized I'd been standing in front of the window too long. I was about to turn away when I saw a familiar silhouette inside the store. It was Vanessa, the woman who hadn't replied to my text. And standing next to her in a sharp, tailored suit was Toby. Under the bright boutique lights, they looked like the perfect couple. Vanessa was looking up at him, talking, her face full of that gentle warmth I knew so well. My mind went blank. The world went silent. She happened to glance toward the window and caught my eye. Her smile died instantly. Before Toby could follow her gaze, she stepped in front of him, blocking his view of me. A sales associate brought over another garment and led Toby toward the fitting rooms. Vanessa rushed out of the store. She reached out to grab my hand, her voice shaking. It's not what it looks like. I pulled back. And what does it look like? Her face flushed as she scrambled for an explanation. Toby's surgery is next week. He might not make it. He told me he's never worn a real designer suit. He didn't want to die without knowing what it felt like. I'm just here to help him pick one out. I laughed. What's next? He says he's never been married, so you go to City Hall with him? You guys have so many regrets and unfinished business. Why don't you? Just marry him and fix all of it at once? Vanessa, I said, looking her dead in the eye. We're done. No. She stepped toward me, grabbing my arm. Just give me 1 week. After the surgery, after I help him with his bucket list, everything will go back to the way it was. I promise. People on the sidewalk were starting to stare. I didn't have the energy for a scene. Vanessa, you aren't the same person anymore. Or maybe I just never knew the real you. There is no going back. She wouldn't let go. I looked past her into the store. Toby had stepped out in a new tuxedo. He's out, I said quietly. If you don't let go, your one that got away is going to see us. Her hand dropped instantly. I gave her a cold smile and walked away. She didn't follow me. When I got home, I packed every single thing of hers into boxes, including the Lego set I'd finished for her. I called a courier to deliver it to her apartment. Then, I went to sleep. The next day at work, I walked into my boss's office and told him I'd take the Chicago assignment. The company had wanted to send me there a month ago to launch a new branch. The plan was for me to spend a year there and then move back to New York as a director. I'd hesitated before because of Vanessa. Now I was a free agent. I broke my lease, blocked Vanessa and her friends on everything, and on the day of Toby's surgery, I boarded a plane to Chicago. I thought I'd be devastated, but the sheer volume of work kept me from sinking. I didn't have time to be sad. It wasn't until 6 months later, when Vanessa suddenly appeared outside my Chicago office, that I realized I had almost entirely forgotten she existed. It wasn't that surprising she found me. She used to pick me up from the New York office all the time. Plenty of people knew her. All she had to do was ask around. I had no interest in a reunion. I pulled out my keys and headed toward the parking garage. My promotion hadn't officially kicked in yet, but the company had given me a raise and was paying for my apartment. I'd bought myself a new car. My life was moving up. I had no reason to look back. But Vanessa wouldn't move. She blocked my path, and my first instinct was just pure annoyance. Move it, Vanessa. You're in my way. She flinched at my tone. Mark, can we please just talk? We're broken up. There's nothing to talk about. I never agreed to the breakup, she said stubbornly. I laughed. You didn't ask for my permission to move an ex into your house either. The breakup happened, Vanessa. Coming all the way here is just embarrassing. Just give me a chance to make it up to you, she pleaded. Her eyes were red. I remembered when we first started dating, and she'd made me mad once. She'd stood at my door with that same about-to-cry look, and I'd softened. Now her tears just irritated me. Make it up to me? Are you addicted to making things up to people? You finished making it up to your first love, so now you're moving on to your ex? I brushed past her and got into my car. In the rearview mirror, I saw her standing there looking defeated. The powerful, confident woman I'd once loved was gone. I felt nothing. I thought my stance was clear, but for the next few days, she was there every evening. I didn't know how she had this much free time, but she was becoming a nuisance. On Friday, I finally walked over to her. Her face lit up with hope. Let's talk, I said, my voice cold. I drove us down to the riverfront. When I first moved to Chicago, I used to come here to clear my head. On the drive over, Vanessa tried to make small talk, but I gave her nothing but one-word answers. She eventually went quiet. She knew this wasn't going to be the romantic reconciliation she'd imagined. The Riverwalk was full of people, couples, families, joggers. The lively atmosphere made the silence in the car feel even heavier. I had once seen a future with this woman. She had been the one to break it. How was his surgery? I asked, breaking the silence. Vanessa grabbed the opening. It was a success. He moved back abroad a week ago. I was actually surprised. I thought you two would end up together. She looked at me strangely. You sound like you wanted us to. I shrugged. Whether you're together or not doesn't affect my life anymore. You've changed, she said softly. People do. You did too. Toby is gone now, Mark. The thing that was between us is gone. Can't we just start over? She sounded like a child who couldn't understand why they weren't getting their way. I sighed. The problem was never him, Vanessa. I told you that. It was your choices and your attitude. But honestly, none of that matters now. Why doesn't it matter? Because I don't love you anymore. The blood drained from her face. We were together for years. You can just throw it all away like it was nothing. You have no feelings left at all. I nodded, then shook my head. I can't deny what we had, and I believe you really did love me once. I thought about the past and smiled. You know, on our second anniversary, if you had actually proposed, I would have said yes on the spot. I trusted you completely. That's a rare thing for me. My smile faded. But you were the one who broke that trust. It started the night you lied about the reunion. From that moment, your heart started drifting, and I started pulling away piece by piece. You moving him in, going to Universal on Valentine's Day, the tuxedo fitting. Those things just made me move faster. I know you had regrets from your past. Whether you wanted to fix them or get back with him, that was your choice to make. But you can't expect me to just sit around and wait while you figure out where you belong. Vanessa was smart. She knew exactly what I was saying. Can we just forget the past and start over? I don't trust you anymore. It actually hurt a little to say that. I wasn't sad about the relationship ending. I was sad that the version of me who trusted people that much was gone. Do you hate me? She asked. The question caught me off guard. No. Hate is a strong emotion. It keeps you tied to someone. I don't want that. I don't hate you, and I don't love you. I'm just done. Vanessa gave a bitter laugh. I think I'd rather you hated me. We sat in silence for a while longer. I checked my watch. It's late. I need to get home. You should call an Uber. That night, I slept soundly. Vanessa didn't show up at the office again. Work got busier. The Chicago market launch was a massive success. What was supposed to take a year only took 6 months. The company moved me back to New York and kept their word. I was officially a director. I bought my own place and a car. I finally had a home that was truly mine. New York is a big city. Even though we were in the same town, I didn't see Vanessa for a long time. It wasn't until a rainy afternoon in the middle of summer that we crossed paths again. A car rear-ended. Me and Vanessa happened to be driving by. The other driver was at fault, and the cops handled it quickly, but my car had to be towed. It was pouring. Ubers were impossible to find, and I had a high-stakes meeting with a new partner. This project was my baby, and I couldn't be late. When Vanessa pulled over and offered me a ride, I hesitated for 2 seconds before getting in. She looked older, more settled. When did you get back to the city? She asked. I opened my laptop on my lap to do one last check of the proposal. Earlier this year? Still at the same firm? Yeah, I said, not looking up. She seemed to realize I wasn't interested in talking, so she stayed quiet. She put on some soft jazz, and the only sound was the clicking of my keyboard. Eventually, she pulled up to the curb. We're here. Thanks for the lift, I said. She looked like she wanted to say something, but I was already out the door. The meeting was intense. We were fighting over every percentage point. The other company's lead, a woman named Rachel, was sharp as a tack. She didn't give an inch. It was the kind of intellectual sparring I lived for. 2 hours later, we shook hands on a deal. Rachel dropped the Ice Queen act as we walked out. "You're a hell of a negotiator, Mark. Your firm is lucky to have you." I laughed. It was the first time she'd sounded human all day. We were chatting and laughing as we walked out of the lobby. "Mark." I turned around. It was Vanessa. Why was she still here? It was still pouring. She walked toward us under her umbrella, and I noticed Rachel's smile vanish. There was an immediate, strange tension between the two women. "Are you finished? Let's go," Vanessa said softly. I was confused. "No thanks. I'll just catch a cab back to my office." Vanessa's face tightened. It was awkward. Rachel didn't leave, and Vanessa wouldn't move. We were just standing there in the rain like characters in a bad movie. Employees walking by were definitely gossiping. I sighed. "Rachel, thanks again. Let's keep in touch about the next steps." Rachel gave a curt nod, but stayed put. "I'm not in a rush. I'll wait with you until your ride gets here." I checked my phone. The Uber app said no cars available. Vanessa spoke up again. "It's raining too hard for a cab. Just get in. I'm heading toward your office anyway." I realized if I didn't leave, this weird standoff was going to continue indefinitely. I said goodbye to Rachel and got into Vanessa's car. I didn't open my laptop this time. I just stared at the rain on the window. "Congratulations on the promotion," Vanessa said. "Thanks." "Do you have to be this distant?" she asked, sounding frustrated. I didn't answer. She gripped the steering wheel. "That Rachel woman. She likes you. She's a business partner, Vanessa. Don't start." "I'm not starting anything. It's a woman's intuition." She hit the steering wheel in frustration. "Seeing you laugh with her? It drove me crazy. If she can have a chance with you, why can't I?" I felt my temper rising. First of all, she and I are strictly professional. Second of all, even if we weren't, it has nothing to do with you. We hit a red light. She turned to me. "Mark, we ran into each other today for a reason. It means it's not over. Give me a chance to win you back. Let me compete with her. Please." I was beyond words. "You're delusional. You need professional help." "I'm serious. I love you." I didn't want to be cruel, but she wouldn't listen to anything else. "You love me? Vanessa, it's been over a year. You were fine without me. If we hadn't bumped into each other today, we probably would have never spoken again. You don't love me. You see that I'm doing better than I was, and your ego can't handle it. This isn't love, it's just pride. And it's not fair to whoever you date next." "I don't want anyone else," she whispered. "I want to start over." The light turned green. "Life isn't a movie. Vanessa, not everything can be fixed. We both need to move on." She drove me the rest of the way in silence. When she pulled up to my building, she asked, "Can we at least be friends?" I opened the door. "I don't stay friends with exes." I looked back at her one last time. "Goodbye, Vanessa." She couldn't bring herself to say it back. I shut the door and walked away without looking back. The rain stopped, and a rainbow appeared over the skyline. I refused to be a prisoner of the past. I'm going to keep growing, keep moving, and I can't wait to see what's next.